Have you ever had the sense that something essential is missing from how we raise young people in Western culture? That teens are being asked to grow up without ever being truly guided into adulthood? Today we're talking about what that missing piece is and why rites of passage are crucial for teens' development and how we can bring them back in meaningful and modern ways. Welcome back to Parents and Teens Rising, the place where we have real conversations about raising confident, connected, and resilient young people in today's world. I'm so glad you're here. Today we're diving into something ancient, powerful, and often missing from modern life, which is rites of passage. We're going to explore what they are, why they matter, and how they help teens grow into strong, grounded adults. If you're new here, I'm Jasmine Chandler, and for the past 16 years, I've worked with teens, young adults, and parents as a coach, a teacher, and as a wilderness rites of passage guide that helps young people step into purpose and confidence, and parents step into connection and courage. In this video, I'm going to walk you through my own story and how rites of passage changed my life, what a rites of passage actually is and how cultures around the world have practiced it for centuries, the risks teens face when they don't have a clear supported transition into adulthood, and how rites of passage help teens develop confidence, resilience, and purpose. Let's get into it. So for starters, I want to share my story. So when I was 19 years old, I went on a 10-day wilderness rites of passage trip that completely changed the direction of my life. At the time, I was in college, but I felt lost, disconnected, and unsure of who I really was. And then one day, my mom came up to me and said she'd been to a presentation at her university where someone had come and talked about the importance of rites of passage for young people. And my mom heard that presentation and she thought of her kids. She thought of my brother and she thought of me and how this could be a really impactful thing for us at this stage of our lives. And so both my brother and I ended up going on this trip into the Steens Mountains of Eastern Oregon with this woman who had given the presentation to my mom's psychology class. And it ended up being so absolutely transformative for me. It was this opportunity to sit with myself, to sit with nature, to be in community and have mentorship and guidance, and to really ask those deeper questions of myself. Who am I? What's important to me? How do I want to move through this world? What do I want for myself and what do I want for my life? And the guides really facilitated this beautiful container where we would sit in council together and we would talk about our intentions and what we wanted for ourselves. And then ultimately, they sent us out on a 4-day solo time where we each went and found our own spot and sat with ourselves with just 4 gallons of water, no food, a tarp, a sleeping bag, and nature. And we really had to face into our fears, face into ourselves, and face into those deeper questions. And by the time I came back from that solo time, I was a different person. I had pushed through so many things, so many fears, so much anxiety, so many questions, so many past experiences that I was able to process and really check in with myself about in order to move forward and heal from those moments. And when I came back, I was able to tell my story to the group, and my mom and my best friend actually came and they heard my story too, and they welcomed me back into the community, right? And so it was this amazing moment where I stepped out of my regular everyday life that just felt kind of like I was going through the motions and I didn't even know why I was doing it. And I was transported and catapulted into this ceremonial moment where I was deeply listened to and deeply supported and deeply held. And I was able to share my story and have that reflected back to me. And when I came back home, it was like I was a different person and I almost didn't feel like I fit into my life anymore, and I had to recreate it in a new way. And it's led me on this journey to become an educator, to work with young people, and ultimately to bring this work forward where I get to offer rites of passage to the youth of this next generation. And so for me, it led me to my purpose. It led me to really understanding who I am and to having tools for navigating all of the challenges of life and for knowing that I'm not alone and that there's people that can support me in the process. It changed everything for me. Everything for me. From that moment forward, Everything in my life was different than it was before. And it sent me in a direction that feels in alignment with who I am as a person, which allowed me to have confidence and move through the world authentically and to do things even when they felt scary because I knew I could. I built up the strength and the belief in myself through this experience. And that is what I feel is so missing in today's culture. And so we're going to dive into other cultures who have brought this work forward for thousands of years, right? And how we can do this work today. So what is a rites of passage and what are the historical foundations? So a rite of passage is a ceremonial experience that marks a person's transition from one phase of life to another. So usually from childhood into adolescence or from teenage years into adulthood. And these rituals have existed for thousands of years in nearly every culture across the globe. So I'm going to give some examples here of how these have played out in other cultures. So the Maasai of Kenya and Tanzania use a series of initiation rituals for boys, including circumcision and warrior training to mark the shift into adulthood and responsibility. In the Jewish tradition, they have what's called a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah, a coming of age ceremony at age 12 or 13 that marks a young person's moral and religious responsibility within the community. The Dene people, also known as the Navajo people, hold the Canalda, a rite of passage for girls entering womanhood with rituals centered around strength, beauty, and spiritual connection. The Australian Aboriginal peoples conduct a walkabout where adolescent boys embark on a solo journey in the wilderness to reflect, survive, and connect to their ancestral roots. And the Apache people have what's called the sunrise ceremony, a 4-day initiation where girls are honored, strengthened, and symbolically transformed as they enter womanhood. Now, we don't want to culturally appropriate or take ceremonies from other places and use them for our own, but we do want to adapt and find ways that we can help our young people mark these important transitions in their lives. These rituals from all of these cultures across the globe were not just symbolic. They were a community mandate, a collective moment of saying, you are no longer a child, you have a place here, and you are needed. And here's what comes with this new phase of life. Here are your new responsibilities, your new freedoms, your new roles, right? So what does a modern rite of passage look like? Here's how I run these experiences, which is grounded in traditional frameworks, but adapted for the world our teens are growing up in now. With my organization, Guided Passages, we run our trips as backpacking treks, which adds another layer of challenge and adventure, which keeps them engaged and motivated, and also another layer of persevering through challenge. Each program includes 3 intentional phases. The first phase is preparation and severance. So before we even head out into the wilderness, we begin with reflection and intention. So teens are guided to look at what they're letting go of, whether it's an identity or a belief or a way of being, and begin to name what's no longer serving them. And they're also supported in identifying their intention for going on this adventure and in naming how they see themselves and who they're becoming, what they're ready to step into. So they think about these things in preparation. And this preparation severance component also includes leaving behind all the familiar things that you know, leaving behind your home and your family and your friends, and embarking on some big journey, some big adventure. So that's part of severance, which includes the word to sever, right? We're severing from what we knew and we're going into something new. The second phase is called threshold, and this is the heart of the quest. So in a safe, facilitated wilderness environment, youth spend time in solo reflection. They learn to be with themselves without distraction. And so for our middle school trip, this looks like a 6-hour solo time in sight of our guide. And for our young adult quest, participants actually embark on a 48-hour solo experience. So during the trip, they're held in a container of support by experienced guides and a small group of peers who are also on the path, and really just embarking on this trek out into the backcountry with everything they need on their backs, right? Where we make our own food out there, where we have our own shelter, where we've left behind our parents and all of our comfort and our self-service, right? Even that, all of that is part of the rite of passage, right? They are going out. They are doing something big and challenging and hard and fun and exciting and wild. and they're creating an experience, right? And that's all part of this threshold, right? And the final phase is incorporation and return. So we don't just drop them off back at home when we're done. They actually return to a welcome home circle where they're witnessed by their parents and by the community, and they get to share their stories about what they discovered about themselves, what they saw out there, what new realizations they've come to. And they get to hear that reflected back by the guides and reflected back by their parents, and hear how proud their parents are of them, right? And how many moments are there like that in our everyday society where parents sit down in a ceremonial way with witnesses and tell their young person, their son or their daughter, how proud they are of them. It is such a powerful moment of return where they get to be witnessed and celebrated and welcomed into this new phase of life. So these quests are not about roughing it or proving toughness. They're about meeting yourself away from the noise and coming back with clarity, confidence, and a deeper sense of purpose. So powerful, so missing, so needed. So what happens without rites of passage, right? We've been doing this for a long time in Western culture without having these moments of initiation. But when young people don't experience a clear, supported transition into adulthood, they often go searching for their own way to feel grown, to feel powerful, or to feel seen. And that can get really risky. So whether it's partying, dangerous stunts, online personas, sexual exploration, hazing, right? These shadow initiations lack the community support and reflection needed for real growth. They often give a sense of rebellion or freedom, but without the structure that says, you now have new responsibilities and new freedoms. So what are the benefits of a rite of passage? I want to give you 5 benefits of ways that rites of passage help support teen growth, okay? So number 1, confidence. There's something powerful about being challenged and coming out on the other side, especially when it's witnessed. When a teen hears, we saw what you went through. You did it. We honor your strength. It sticks. They remember that. It's no longer about faking confidence. It's something they've experienced and they've earned, right? Number 2, resilience. Most rites of passage include discomfort. So maybe it's sleeping outside, sitting in solitude, or facing hard emotional truths. These moments show teens that they can do hard things. They build an inner voice that says, I've made it through before and I can do it again. All right. Number 3, it creates community mindedness. So rites of passage remind teens, you're not doing this alone. You're part of a lineage of elders, of peers and mentors who are all with you, right? And this fosters deep respect and responsibility for something bigger than themselves, which is so needed in a world that often pushes isolation or individual achievement over belonging. All right, number 4, perseverance. These experiences are not instant gratification. They take time, effort, and patience. So whether it's hiking, fasting, journaling, or holding silence, teens learn that meaning takes work. And that's a lesson they're going to carry into every challenge that comes their way in the future. And finally, number 5, sense of purpose. And this is maybe the biggest gift that can come from this. When teens step outside their usual distractions and are asked real questions like, who are you? What do you care about? What do you want to stand for? They begin to craft a story for their life. And when they feel like their life has a story, that's where motivation, integrity, and direction start to grow. Okay, so before we wrap up, I want to invite you as a parent to pause and ask yourself, what was my rite of passage? Did you ever have a moment where the adults in your life stopped and celebrated your transition into the next phase of your life, where they said, you're ready, we see you, you've got this, we're proud of you? If that didn't happen for you, you're not alone. That's actually totally normal in this culture and society. And that might be exactly why you feel such a deep desire to give your teens something more meaningful than grades and chores and screen time. So, to wrap it all up, we started today with a question: why are rites of passage important for teens? And we looked at how traditional cultures across the globe have honored these transitions for thousands of years, and how the loss of these experiences in modern life has left many teens feeling ungrounded, anxious, or unsure of who they are. And we broke down the 3 key components of a rite of passage, which is severance, threshold, and incorporation. And we talked about why each of those components is essential. And we also explored 5 core ways that these experiences help teens grow, which is confidence, resilience, community-mindedness, perseverance, and purpose. So if you're feeling inspired to give your teen a meaningful, life-changing experience that helps them build confidence, direction, and resilience, I want to invite you to learn more about our upcoming Rites of Passage trips that are happening this summer. So this summer of 2025, I'm leading 2 incredible Rites of Passage experiences designed specifically for young people. We have the 7th and 8th grade wilderness quest for incoming 7th graders to exiting 8th graders, and that's happening June 17th to 21st. That one is a 5-day, 4-night backpacking adventure into the Marble Mountain wilderness of Northern California with a 6-hour solo time. And then we also have a young adult wilderness quest for ages 18 to 24 that's happening July 14th to 20th. This is going to be a 7-day, 6-night backpacking adventure into the Marble Mountains, where they're going to actually have a 48-hour solo time experience on their own, where they're going to push themselves beyond comfortability, sit with themselves, and persevere through a really hard moment and come back on the other side to tell their story. So if you missed our recent informational sessions on Zoom, I've got a replay available for you for both of our trips. So just click the link below to access the recording and see if this journey could be the right fit for your family. I would love to guide your teen through this powerful transition. This is actually my absolute passion, my mission in life. So please reach out if you're interested here. All right, that's it for today. So thank you so much for being here. Please keep raising the next generation with heart, with courage, and with connection. And don't forget to like this post and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any of my weekly episodes in my Parents and Teens Rising series. All right, y'all, have a beautiful rest of your day.